This hangout on air is live. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to OreAni. Today with us we have Albert,
Oh,
Nick,
yo.
John,
Hey.
Tripley,
Hey.
and myself. So we got the usual crew with us today. We'll be going over the second half of the spring season, or actually just all the titles we forgot. So let's go ahead and start with Akuma no Riddle. So Nick, you want to start us off since you were absent last week?
I guess I could. Yeah, Akuna no Riddle is pretty much a show that's probably like well off its synopsis. You basically have this classroom that was kind of thrown together with a bunch of young teenage assassins who have a target in their classroom, and in almost a Danganronpan like style, they have to submit a letter basically to the one target in the classroom, and within 48 hours have to assassinate this classmate of theirs. And it's pretty much what the series kind of centers around. It's a little bit of a deviation once you start kind of watching the anime, but a very obscure kind of title. About the one comment that I'd have to say so far is that, you know, they really kind of do a huge stretch on this like assassination thing and making it seem like it's the most difficult thing to do in the world. It's something that should be rather straightforward, at least. But is anyone else watching this one?
Well, it looks like Tripley's seen part of it.
Yeah, only the first episode, but I couldn't get into the stuff this anime showed the first episode. It's like we've got this not only assassins but murderers too, and they like to murder, and yeah, that's kind of the things behind this anime. And this one girl tries to defend, yeah, the target. It could be interesting, but I'm not really into well, the style of anime at all.
Yeah. So I remember before it was getting fit into the anime, some people were talking about how the manga was so great. So I honestly don't see it right now with the anime, but it's kind of interesting. But then again, I don't think I would follow it to the end unless it's has some really interesting like assassination techniques. I'm kind of waiting for the first attempt before I make any decision if I want to continue this or not. And think I've seen up to 3 episodes or 2, I can't remember. All I know is that they had that whole meeting and they were told with the cards like you said.
Mm. Yes, you do. The show really does center its premise around a really notable family name of like background historical, a highly elite trained family of assassins, and she is kind of the main character of this show, and she does, as we said before, switch from assassinating the target to choose to defend the target, and you know the school or whatever, whoever's pulling the strings for this classroom decides to allow it, and it's pretty much where we are with the show right now.
Well, unless anyone else has anything else to say, I guess we can move on to the next title. But would you say it's a recommendation for this season, Nick?
I'd say it's rather average. I'd have to see how it ends before I would just recommend it to anybody. But it is some pretty... It's not definitely a title that I would definitely push to like every fan. Like, be sure to check this title out this season. it's pretty much if you pick it up and find interest in it, carry through. But it doesn't seem like it's garnering a large amount of fandom behind it either. So.
All right. Same with you, Triply.
Yeah, kinda. As I'm not really into the stuff, I don't think. It could be
Nice.
average, but for me, a little bit below that right now.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next title. So most of these titles that we're going through, not a lot of us have seen, so we'll be able to get through these pretty quick. Some of these I can't even say, like this one. What is this? How do you say this? Etelia, Eshka, and Logi?
Logi.
Lagi? Logi?
Yeah, like Logi, yeah.
Aji?
Mm. So yeah, I'll take this one because I am actually kind of watching it as well. This one really reminds me of a lot of games that I've played in the past. Stuff kind of like Star Ocean and similar titles. You could just see like the game realm like being pulled out of this title right here. It's established in a world of alchemy that works exactly like it does in most Star Ocean and the like games, where you get obscure items, throw them into like a mixing pot of sorts, and you get some kind of a synthesized item out of it. You can also use a forge-like one to make weaponry. Our main two characters, who are in the title of this series, are government R&D employees, and they get missions to kind of prove their worth as government officials, and they go around helping either the town or nearby towns using their alchemic knowledge or, I guess, techniques of problem solving. And it's a world laden with a lot of old ruins left behind by some advanced civilization that it is currently unknown how they exactly met their end, but they pretty much get quests to go to these ruins to get an item to help them with a village ailment, and get attacked by a wild monster along the way, maybe get into the final room of the ruins, and some kind of a boss thing awakens. It's really kind of weird. It has a really action-y opening, and in some of the episodes there have been some pretty great effects, but I don't know exactly how well this one's going to go over yet myself, but I'm just going to say, if you played a lot of JRPGs that have a lot of, go get this item to do alchemy type quests, go explore ruins, this might just be up your alley to kind of try to watch a game made into an anime. Now, I actually really don't know the background to this, if it actually is a game or not, or some company just decided, let's make a game like anime. But, I mean, I can really feel that story coming out of this title, so that's really the reason I'm personally watching it, is just to see if it is essentially like one of those games I would have played myself way back when, made into an anime title instead of a game, so...
Yeah, I started watching this because of someone made a post saying this was awesome. Honestly, I didn't really find it that interesting.
Yeah, it has a lot of slow pace to it, but like I say, when an enemy shows up, immaculate effects kind of come out of the woodworks, but the enemies seem to come few and far between. So.
Well, actually, Atelier is a game series, and Azure and Logi are kinda, one part of it. And as I'm not really, knowing the series at all, I don't know if this anime is kind of the thing the fans want, or something similar. But actually, I've watched the first episode right before the hangout, and at first I was like, the voice acting is really bad, but actually I knew that this automation, I don't know, this machine, like clone, was acting that way because she was a machine. That was kind of strange at first. But actually, the backgrounds and the characters are well drawn. They're kind of using a technique that I'm not really familiar with in anime right now. And yeah, I'm kind of confused too with some things happening, like they're trying to do or make something. They are trying to get the things for that, and suddenly they fight a wolf or something similar, or rabbits, who knows? And I was like, whoa, why do they fight them right now? After that, they buy some minerals, and then they put something together in a pot, and suddenly it's well, the thing they needed. It's kind of strange. But actually, I will follow it for the next few episodes. But it's just average right now.
So one thing that I'll say I did like about it, that kind of caught my interest at the very beginning, but then it was just too slow paced, was it seemed like it was a story being told. So you're actually watching someone telling a story about what's going on. And I thought that was kind of interesting. But then again, like I said, it's too slow paced for me. If you're into action stuff, I don't think you guys would ever really get into this because you'd be waiting for a while.
Yeah, I'll definitely wait with it and see if it gets going into something consistent and report back at the end of the season. But like I just kind of was saying, to me it struck that like Tales of whatever series and like a lot of Star Ocean games, the company produced them. This thing does seem like one of those games unfolding in anime form, so ultimately that's the reason why I will be watching it, just to see how well of a project it is.
Alright. So let's go ahead and move on to the next title then. Shall we? Next up we have Baby Steps, which I think is kind of a strange name for a tennis type show. But yes, it's about tennis. It's one of the sports animes of the season, which I'll probably be following. It's a it's a very interesting type of tennis play he does. Kind of reminds me of something from something older I watched. But but just to go over this real quick, you got this student who is pretty much like a straight A student. They even call him because of his name A Kun. Kind of playing around with like he's a straight A person, but his name is A, and he's always acing his tests. He's always being asked to help. He's just like this straightforward guy. Has a planner, follows everything to the T. Even his handwriting, they even make fun of because it's so clean. It's like it was printed by a computer, and he's always trying to make everything look perfect. Well, he decides he needs some exercise in his life or something to keep him in fit. So then that's when he stumbles upon tennis, and then in the process of trying to learn it, of course, him being trying to be perfect, he's trying to get it down, and it's kind of interesting to see how he's trying to do this. Of course, he's terrible at it, so it's kind of fun to see how he is progressing. You want to add anything, Tripoli?
Well, actually, I'm following the manga right now. It's over 200 chapters, and it kind of surprised me because it gets love story later on and has a lot of mechanics that exist in tennis included in the anime, and you've got things like well, the thing, well, let's say at least the author is trying to get what really a guy that really doesn't know anything about tennis is trying to achieve. and he's trying to hit the ball, and he's trying that for a long time until he gets it right. That's kind of funny for quite a long time. Later on, there will be a lot of matches, like in every sports anime, and a lot of well, he will evolve in a new person. That's kind of really nice. And well, Akon is really surprising type of guy one can follow without him being, well, a pussy or, well, I can do that instantly, kills everyone in the card. So it's really something to watch. Well, if you have time, it's kind of something to watch.
So one thing I do want to mention about it is like the only other tennis show I've really seen is Prince of Tennis, and they had all these really crazy shots, all those names for their hits like a snake hook and all that crazy stuff going on, moon volley. This doesn't seem like it's going to be doing anything like that, and I hope it doesn't. It seems to be pretty realistic type of tennis, not all these you call your shot names or you have these special abilities. So in that way, it's kind of a little easier to watch, I think.
Well, actually, the first name for a hit or some kind of attack is named in chapter 170 because a comedian guy or comedy guy kind of said, "Whoa, this looks so awesome! It's kind of, well, difficult to hit. Why don't we name it name of the player and bazooka?" And it's kind of funny. It's really realistic in a way. It's more about the way that Akon is kind of analyzing what he's doing and trying to hit things that way, trying to analyze things and trying to hit the ball the way he wants to hit it to hit. Yeah.
So this is the sports anime I would recommend if you wanted to start a new one versus everything else out there, or that bicycle one. But that's already been like 3 cores, right? It's on the 3rd core.
Yeah, actually, I prefer Baby Steps just because I'm reading it for like 4 years. And
So
it's not
Baby
like
Steps will be a 2-core show.
at least I think.
That's good news for me.
Yeah.
Actually, Baby Steps is a little less of a child's anime than what is called anime bicycle thing.
I actually did just check out the first episode of this one because I usually do that with a bunch of animes, and not to say that it's necessarily a bad show or anything. I just chose not to pick it up because I didn't necessarily care for a sports anime that seemed pretty straightforward like this one, and I actually had a little bit of a bias in it. I ended up not liking the main character's hairstyle, so I'm like, nope, this series is kind of down. And I think the character animations themselves, it's not as vivid as I like in a lot of the titles that I watch. The animation seems just a little bit more dry in comparison to a lot of stuff out there. So it was mostly animation, kind of the character designs themselves that kind of caused me just to kind of say that this isn't necessarily something I necessarily want to watch. So
Actually, there are a lot of problems with animations, like eyes popping off, and that's kind of funny. It seems to be low budget, but the story is good as far as I know.
Alright. Well, thank you guys. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which we have Blade and Soul, right?
Yeah. game adaptation, I think.
So Tripoli, why don't you start us off?
Well, actually, Blade and Soul is the adaptation of the game Blade and Soul, made by this game is made by NCSoft, and as I know, NCSoft is really, let's say, it must be high quality or it won't be released, as I know. And I kind of think that's the case. Blade and Soul is solid, but not the best animation or anime I know. But it's pretty solid right now. It's trying to tell what is happening in the game. Like, this government is really bad in a way, killing civilians and doing pretty much everything it wants to do. And the main character is trying to, let's say, the same thing as in Ukraine is happening right now. Yeah, that's kind of sums up the story, but it's actually well told and really nicely done in this respect. The animation is really good, I think. It has really a lot of, let's say, nicely animated plot and a lot of, well, I think skills in the game that are completely cool in a way. The anime kind of makes me want to play the game, actually. That's how I think about Blade and Soul.
So I was actually surprised until episode 2. Then you start seeing some really good animation for the fight scenes, and it's pretty interesting to watch those scenes going on. And it's one of those shows that I know I could recommend to people who love watching those action type animes, because those fight scenes were just, to me, were pretty amazing.
Georges, I think.
Yeah, we have a main character in this one who can hold her own against some pretty elite forces out there, and that usually would always make for a good anime series. Much like Tripoli was kind of saying, you know, the story's not bad. It's rather enticing, and when the action does come, it is rather nice. So I'm not going to like spend too long talking about all that, but one thing that I particularly wanted to bring up was I'm fascinated by its ending. The ED animation. The song's not bad, but if you actually watch the ending of it, or even if you're not interested in the show, maybe just kind of go check it out. We have a pure CG kind of dance thing going on, like that Monochrome did from a few seasons back. But we have a fan-based person who's dancing like with a fan, and the animation studio who did this has a trail at the fan tip. So as she's kind of doing, you know, like doing her kind of dance, the fan just endlessly trails at its tip where the tip was, and I'm impressed by the ending in that, you know, once you've seen it, it kind of loses its sparkle a little bit, but it was something that caught my eye a lot, and like I said, the song was pretty upbeat and catchy and not bad. I found myself going back to listening to the song just a few times.
Actually, the first and second episode have different endings, I think. At least the animation is different. It's kind of awesome, in a way. Having the first episode, having a CGI butterfly fly through, well, different things, or fly to the darkness. In the second episode, we have this dancing girl waving her hands and body. Well, it's kind of nice. A lot of fan service, I think, in the ending, in the second one.
I don't know about a lot, but yeah, I'm not sure. I wasn't paying exactly attention, but I think at least by the second episode it started up. I think what might have happened is, and this is just a maybe, that the first episode didn't start with the opening, It just like did something close to a cold open. And a lot of times, the first episode you end with the opening, and then by the second episode, the opening starts up where it should, and then the ending's introduced.
Yeah,
That might have been what happened here, but I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not sure either.
All right. So shall we move on?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Next we have uh, Bokura wa Minna Kawaiso. I've only seen one episode of this, so I can't really say too much about it. But... So Nick.
I've got to say, you are a horrible person, good sir. This has been one of my kind of melodrama favorites of the season. It highly reminds me of Sakura So, in that it kind of ends with a so, and you have a little bit of a dorm life kind of thing going on here. The characters are really funny, and it's just a story I can absolutely get into. If you thought Sakura So was a little too otaku for you, this one really kind of meshes that with slice of life and does well at it. It's definitely something I'm going to be following until its end. I'm looking forward into seeing the developments between the characters in this place. We have our main tenant, who he's kind of hard to describe at this time, but each and other tenant has a very specific thing, almost like Sakura So, where you just instantly recognize them for their trait that you can tell right off what it is. I don't even know if I want to really spoil it or just leave that potential there for anyone who's going to go check out this series. So I'm enjoying it. Is anyone else watching it, or is it just me?
Actually, the art style is fantastic. The story is well done. Voice acting is fabulous. Anything else?
Yeah,
I've
everything
just...
about the... Oh, go ahead.
You first.
Okay, I was just going to say I agree with you where the animation's very fluid and the voices are done really well. But just a little tidbit that I was going to throw out there, because I normally comment about this stuff, is the opening was done by the same band who did that Gin Gitsune from like a few seasons ago. It's not one that I particularly like, but it's kind of interesting because I usually, with the works that they do, I usually don't hear them popping up from time to time. So, but as I was kind of watching that opening, I was instantly reminded of Gingitsune, and I was like, yay, I prefer this title over Gingitsune.
Actually, I liked how the opening was telling a little story about, well, the kind of change. They've only got the two main characters, and they change the setting and their clothes all the time, going through centuries, I think. That was kind of awesome. Well, it's kind of awesome to watch. Yeah, and I've got to agree with everything that Nick said. It's really something Sakura So like mixed with a lot more slice of life, and again with the romance.
All right. So would you guys recommend this? This looks like you guys are.
Actually, I think I recommend it to a friend of mine that hasn't watched a lot of anime, but kind of likes it. It's well done. I've got anything else to say.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which I don't know. It looks like Nick's the only one who's seen it. Did you watch this? Blade Break. Of course, it looks like it's just the anime adaptation. I know there's an OVA series that's already out. That was about 6 videos or 6 movies. Did you happen to watch this, Nick?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually did not watch the original OVA series, so I figured this might be a perfect way to kind of, but I can't make any direct comparisons to the original OVA. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
Well, as I heard, Blackblade TV version is just a little bit of a moneymaker for the studio. It's mostly a recap of the OVAs done into a TV series. It will be a half season one, 12 episodes, I think. Or 13. But actually, the OVA version was really nicely animated, so it will be a nice, high quality TV version.
Yeah, I might pick it up later just so I can see how it compares to the OVA. So I guess let's go ahead and move on then, since we have nothing to compare it with. The next show is
Well, hang on a second, just to kind of at least inform anyone else who would also be in my case where they haven't seen the original OVA. Just to quickly explain it, it's essentially set in a world in which people have developed the ability to kind of manipulate quartz, and people are rated on their ability to manipulate said quartz, and can be enlisted into the military or any other kind of daily life needs. Our main character has an inability to manipulate quartz, making him kind of an unnecessary in society, and he lives a farm life on a very, very remote village, city, farm thing. And one day he gets called in by his old friends from school who just happen to become the rulers of um, the land. But he eventually stumbles upon this old mechanized unit that the current society cannot activate, and due to his lack of being able to manipulate said quartz, turns out to be the ignition for this mech that's highly advanced for whatever reason in direct comparison to the manipulated quartz ones. And while people are pretty much overly impressed by its abilities, there is a little bit. Sorry, someone's going.
oh, that was crazy. I don't know what that was coming out.
Yeah, I thought a UFO was gonna abduct Nick, shine a beam through the window, and just suck him out of the hangout. So, you said that they have the ability to manipulate quartz, like with Magneto style or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen constantly in the current series of them levitating small rocks in their hands. And it's a lot more outside. It's just the noises getting up here, so
Mhm.
it's what's happening on my end.
Yeah, they're,
Yeah.
they're they're these little stones. Somehow they're able to put them in these machines so that they can manipulate them and move them, so they can power their vehicles or whatever, like trucks, motorcycles, and whatnot.
Mechas. Mechas. That's also the quartz is some kind of magical object in Blackblade or Broken Blade. It can only be used by the ones that can use magic. Everyone except the main character. And he kind of finds this, antique thing, and he can use it. And that's kind of the story. Later on, a big nation will attack, or will attack the small country, and he kind of must defend it.
All
That's
right,
kind of the story.
let's go ahead and move on to the next title. Data Live 2.
Dropped.
Yay, the second season of Data Live. Everyone's been waiting for this, haven't they? So.
No.
What?
It seems I'm the only one hating on Data Life, and I'm kinda surprised I am the only one.
Why are you hating it? Like, what don't you like about it?
I don't. The main character, all the characters in the whole anime I hate, and it's not the anime I hate. It's the characters I hate, and that's so much hate I dropped it twice, the first season and the second season.
Well, it's a pretty fun show. It's continuing off from where it left off last time. So you got the main character, and of course you have these spirits that somehow enter their world, and when they enter, they supposedly cause these space quakes or whatever kind of quakes, I can't remember, which destroys a lot of which destroys the area, I guess you could say. Whenever these happens, there's always like big problems, and they have like evacuation shelters because they never know what's going to happen. And then they have this special unit that goes out and tries to take care of those. I guess they call them spirits that come through the space quakes. And there's a lot of fighting, a lot of damage, so that's why everyone's evacuated. And if you've seen the first season, it's just a continuation of him with the spirits that he's already helped try to get integrated into the world. And now he's meeting some new characters and some new spirits. So I think it's just going to continue the same old pattern. But it's pretty fun to see how he tries to take care of the spirits, because he has to get them to like him or fall in love with him. And they kind of play it in like in an eroge kind of sense, where like every single time something happens, he gets these options, and these people that are helping him all vote on an option that he has to follow. So they're pretty dumb and pretty stupid. Like they even have an OVA that they released before this, and some of those options are so silly. You just have to watch it just to get that little bit. But I don't know what else to say about this. It's pretty fun right now, but
Well, you said what I was thinking a long time. All the characters are very dumb. That's why I hate him. Them. All of them.
really you don't like them just because they all like that one main character?
Well, actually, I kind of hate the fact too that there are even more characters coming in, more space quarks, or I don't know. And yeah, uh, why add more characters when you've got a lot to tell about the characters themselves? That's kind of dumb. That's what I'm thinking. They could tell a lot more background about what's happening, or why is it happening. Who knows?
I see. So I don't know if we want to move to the next title. Nick has some sound issues, which is keeping him away.
Can you break down the title of this anime and how that relates to the premise? Are they dating things that are alive? Are they dating things live? Is he on a live date?
All right, no.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in a sense you could say,
But I'm finally free enough, it seems, at this time. No, this, I actually really enjoyed the first season of this series. The second continuing season didn't exactly pick up where I expected them to, and I was kind of astonished that they got right into adding more characters. Especially there's a few that people can't wait to see. That much I know. But this season has actually been hinting that our main character may be like a first originating kind of spirit into the realm. So we don't know that for sure, not yet, but it'd be kind of interesting to see how that develops. So that might explain why he's been able to do a lot of the stuff he's been able to do, especially regarding the spirits. So, and yes, just to kind of answer the premise again, Sean, as the spirits show up, a military organization attempts to gun them down, but a alternate organization that's not tied to the military attempts to do a like the world God only knows kind of conquest style thing, where he does get interest from the spirits into himself, and they even have implemented a similar the world God only knows mechanic where like a kiss kind of seals the deal, where in the God only knows that kind of signified the end of the conquest, and like the lesser demon or goddess or whatever would awaken or go away. In this one, the spirit's powers get sealed, and the military is a little more unable to kind of identify them.
Yeah, looks like that lawnmower was coming back. So, I guess the only way I could say it is they go on dates that are broadcast live to a ship where they help him make choices, maybe? Maybe that's why they call it data love. But let's move on.
That sounds like a very plausible pseudo-reality TV show that you could do, where the audience just like votes on what one of the people should say, what one person should say to the other person, see if it works or not during a date.
Okay, let's see. What do we got next? It looks like we're gonna have
Photo.
Albert leading us on this next title. I'll go ahead and let him say that since I'll ruin it.
Sure. Next title is Gochumon wa usagi desu ka? Or it's is the order a rabbit? So basically, this is the Moe show for this season. The story is rather simple. Well, here you see the cast, and you can see that it's basically cute girls, and it is based on a manga. So the story starts with the main character, Kokoa, and her last name is Hoto. So in Japanese, it would be Hoto Kokoa, hot cocoa. Yeah, so she moves into a new town and promptly has a horrible sense of direction, is lost, and ends up coming to a cafe called the Rabbit House, thinking there's a bunch of rabbits. You know, just like in Japan, you have those cat cafes and dog cafes and God knows what else cafes. So she thinks it's a bunch of rabbits, comes in and meets Chino, who serves her, and there is actually only one rabbit, and it's really not a rabbit. But turns out this is the exact place where she is supposed to be lodging to attend the new school in the new town. And so she becomes also a member of the cafe and is a waitress, along with several others. Lisa, let's see, she's actually not from the same cafe. It's a different one, but Chia, she meets in town. And later on, and I think this is episode 3, she meets Sharo. So yeah, it is basically cute girls doing cute things. It's a slice of life. There does not appear to be any arc that I can make out, except, you know, it's just kind of following her everyday life as she attends a new school. It is based on a 4-panel manga, which you can kind of see here. I think this is showing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the character designs are pretty faithful. The color palette is really nice. Animation, I haven't seen any serious shortcuts or anything. Voice acting is, yeah, it's a lot of cute sounds. Here's a panel from the manga, and here is the corresponding from the anime. So it's pretty faithful. So if you like, cute girls doing cute things, I would recommend it. I don't think it will leave a lasting impression, not like Non Non Biori from a couple seasons ago, but it's a good way to kill time if you like this type of show. If you don't, then don't watch it, because there is no plot. But it's cute. That's it.
Nyan Pasu. Thank you for that. Anyone else want to add anything real quick? Or
Moi.
So is it safe to assume the order part means like, may I take your order?
Yes.
Yeah.
All I'm gonna say is the rabbit thing reminds me of the grandfather from Vivid Red. That's all I have to say.
alright. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title. Which I haven't been paying attention since. Alright, thank you for that. So here's another sport. Here's another sports title for us, Haikyuu, which I'm probably going to drop, but looks like Tripoli is the only one that's been watching this.
Yeah, actually, it's about volleyball. Don't know if that's the word in English. But well, it's a well done show right now. Animation is a lot better than Baby Steps, and not on the level of Kawaii Soul, but it's actually really good. It's about a main character who is actually trying to be a good player, but he does not have a team in middle school, so he joins a school which has a volleyball team. Yeah, and he's very small, and actually you got to be big or tall in volleyball at least. Well, 4 feet. I don't know. I use the metric system. Yeah, it's mostly about how he plays with someone he played against in middle school. And actually, he's pretty good, as he can jump very high, and his dream is to be like someone he saw in a match in middle school, the little giant. I think there's something similar show that kind of includes the little giant thing. Yeah, it's very watchable, and let's say that the main characters, the club manager, is very decent, and yes, the drawings are way better than Baby Steps. I don't think the story is, but the animation is.
So one thing I do want to say, because what you said is kind of misleading, is that this is a boys' volleyball.
Yeah. The club manager is the woman, and that's the main thing. It's the most important thing, I think. Everyone in the club is adulting here.
Yeah, because once I hear volleyball, anime about volleyball, I'm thinking about girls' volleyball for some reason. So, but I will have to say the animation was kind of interesting, but I kind of got annoyed with all their yelling and bickering with the rivalry. That kind of I mean, for some reason, just hearing them always yelling at each other, just not getting with each other. I know maybe later they'll get together and perform some really cool things, but just right now, it's not what I'm looking for. So that's one of the reasons why I can't follow it right now. Just it's kind of annoying how they're always fighting with each other.
Yeah, I likewise kind of skimmed through like the first episode too, and it didn't seem like anything I was into. I actually kind of think I left because it did look like, you know, an all boys sports kind of thing going on without like the amazing artistic style of OreAni here. So
I think Tripley actually mentioned that a while ago. This is like the free version.
Yeah, it's a little bit like free, and I kind of like how the club manager is a very, well, let's say, pretty woman. That's the main thing why I'm watching it right now. She's very decent.
All right. Well, let's move on. Let's go ahead
But
and move on.
but I've got to say one thing. Um, I don't think we get to see a naked upper body of a guy in this show, so it won't be like all girls will watch this. It's mostly a sports anime, not something girls adore or guys adore.
All right. Well, the next one, which for some reason I've been seeing posts about this being the cutest lolly of the season, is Chica the Coffin Princess, or
Chaika.
Chaika. Sorry,
Chaika.
I can't read that. It's so small on my screen.
You got to get a bigger screen.
I'm on vacation, so I
He's
don't
on
have my stuff.
vacation.
Yeah, I don't got my tools. Let's see who's seen this. Nick and Tripley again.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are watching everything, aren't you?
No, I'm watching everything.
I watch a lot of stuff too. Maybe not quite as much as Tripley. I'm a little more selective, but I actually do like probably manage right around, you know, roughly 30 season or series like per season, including shorts. But I kind of top off around 30 a lot of times.
Let's go ahead and talk about the show with the Coffin Princess.
The Coffin Princess is kind of a really weird one, so I think I'm just going to go straight into like a synopsis. In a world that's set where a mad king has just been slayed, not too far off in the past, we have this silver-haired kind of maiden person traveling with a large coffin on her back, which turns out to be a really intricate-looking magical sniper rifle, and that enables her to use her magic and spells. Not at super far range either, mind you. That rifle bit didn't come through, but she stumbles upon a saboteur of a main character who's in for a rough run at life. Due to the war being over, it's tough for Mr. Saboteur to find a job. Just to kind of quickly get the synopsis out again, he is basically enlisted by her to go and collect the parts of the previous king that were distributed to the heroes who slayed him, because it turns out that she has some relation to him. And there's a lot of the story that's still unfolding, so it's very hard to describe, but this basic premise will kind of get you there. So there's interesting magic being used all over the place. Our main character has an Iron Blood ability, which has a red haze effect and kind of red face glyphs that appear on him that basically make him a fearless combatant. He stays very cool-headed and doesn't necessarily show any cowardice while in this state. So there is a lot of action in this series, and there's a lot of intrigue that the world is kind of showing me that I just kind of want to know more about. But it's not. I'd say it's kind of like an above average of a show. I don't know if it's necessarily the one of the greater series running right now, but it's definitely interesting. So if Tripoli would like to add to that.
Yeah, it's kind of cute how the main character, or the main coffin girl, speaks. That's the most decent thing I've seen this season in a way of voice acting, or in a way the character is described.
If I were to really quickly try to describe it, if you've seen Robotics Notes, she talks really similarly to Fro, the main character who just basically kind of spits out words without using any grammatical structure. So it almost seems like a broken like Japanese thing that she's using. She's just like chucking words out there, and that definitely is an interesting point. I forgot.
Yeah, and well, animation and art style is decent. But as I've only seen the first episode, I've got a lot to see unfolding. As Nick says, so it's still unfolding in the second and third episode. But it's really interesting, and the action scenes are not as good as in Blade and Soul, but very solid. It's a nice watch.
So one thing I do want to mention, there is a manga of this out, so I've read part of the manga. So I'll have to watch more of the series to see how it is, but I've noticed some differences already, but that's to be expected with some shows. That whole Iron Blood thing you were talking about did remind me of another show. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it. It's pretty old, called Shadow Skills, and just the way they do that chant before they start fighting. So that was one thing I did like, but I don't know if I could follow this show. I mean, some scenes were really off. Like I know one part people were saying that the proportions were off. Like her head was really big to her body. But if you guys have nothing else to say, shall we move on to the next one?
Yep.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which I don't have a screenshot for. Sorry.
Well, you don't have to get a screenshot for JoJo.
It would use
JoJo
Alphas.
explains itself pretty good. Um, well, Albert, do you want to start? Well, JoJo Stardust Crusaders is actually part 3 of the manga series, and it's very decent right now. But as I have a broken computer right now, actually I haven't seen much of it yet. But as I know, JoJo will be the manliest show this season as it ever was, and it has a little bit of a new plot included. It actually involves one of the older characters. Well, the main enemy of the JoJo in the first show, and he has come back. And now the son of the grandson or the grand-grandson is well has to fight the enemy again, and it's kind of funny because there are new elements as they themselves don't fight them anymore, but they have new abilities like having a ghost, being able to destroy things in the real world. That's kind of funny in a way. But yeah, I'm not really that hyped for the ghosts and stuff because normally we've had the, let's say, the manliest man, having muscles all over his body, being able to fight everyone. And as of now, they use this new ability or ghosts or anything else. Yeah, it's decent, but I have to watch the rest of it right now. It's kind of strange.
You have anything to add, Albert?
No, Tripoli pretty much covered it. It is based on a really long running manga series. Surprisingly, for I think it's 110 volumes, but it's still not anywhere near the longest manga series. So, but it is about manly men doing manly things. They are on a quest essentially to slay Dio from the very first part, who has revived because he is a vampire. That's no secret. And they are on this quest, and they will. It is a pure shonen show. As they first head out, they will meet enemies that will become friends who will join them on their quest. They will meet other enemies. So it's very episodic. But if you like shonen shows, this is right up your alley. One thing to note, and it's been in the part 1 and part 2 also, but they tend to also print the sound effects on the screen. So they'll have something like go 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 go, which means like menacing or some sort of hyped up tension situation. So it's like when if you watch the old Adam West Batman cartoons where pow and kapow and all those sound effects also showed up on screen. So some people find it annoying. It doesn't really bother me. That's just something to be aware of. And this is in the JoJo's manga storyline, one of the most, I think it's the most popular out of the 6 story arcs that's been, I think maybe there's a 7th one now, but it has been the most popular and probably most colorful because of all the stand abilities. So check it out if you like shonen shows.
So I do have a quick question.
Okay.
Can you start this off just by itself, or would you have to like watch the previous JoJo shows or anime?
I don't think you have to watch the previous shows. It kind of just is explained in the first 2 episodes what's happened in the past, although they don't go over the grandfather Joseph Joestar's involvement with the Pillarmen as much. But it does go back to the first story arc, and it's pretty well explained. And really, a shonen show like this, you don't really need a whole lot of backstory except they're going to go kick some ass.
It's one of the manly shonen stories. Not these fairy tale ones, but a really man that needs to train and wreck everything in his way.
Alright. Well, let's go ahead and go on to the next title. From a manly man show to a show for...
A girly girl.
I don't even know what to call this, but it's...
Well, it's
one of those shows.
Hmm?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's Kamigami no Asobi Ludere Derum, which is actually a JoJo show I've seen. It's, well, kind of disturbing in a way because the first scenes show a fight with someone I don't know yet. But it seemed to be awesome, and they had this magical transformation just with the man, and that looked really shoujo in a way. But later on, when the main character is introduced to other characters, they show the other character, and somehow flowers pop up, and I was really disturbed because the flowers are done in CGI, and the character is drawn in a very very simple 2D way. That was really disturbing. And the story is about a girl that falls in a world where she has to make connections to gods that don't really like human beings, and she kind of has to make these gods to fall in love with her, something like this, or to like her at least. It's really it was harem, and many gods will like this. Actually, I think for these magical transformations.
So what I got from it was, I think it was Zeus transported
Yeah.
all these different gods into this alternate world with this one human, and they're like, there's Japanese gods, Norse gods, Greek gods, all sorts of different types of gods mixed in to this whole group, and they basically go into this school to learn to be human or be more human-like for some reason, so that they can. I don't know. It was just really strange to me, and like he said, it was very. It was one of those shows that every time they introduced a guy, all these little flowers would pop up. It was just.
Not again.
Yeah.
Well, all these gods don't hate humans, but at least don't like them, or they don't work with them, and that's why Zeus sends them to this academy with this one girl that is kind of, well, a girl transported to a new world with all these nice guys. Well, if you love shoujo harem reverse shows, this could be something. And magical transformations with men. That could really something for you, but for anyone else enjoying everything the more normal harem shows, that could be a little bit of this little bit disturbing in a way.
So one question I had is, how is the animation itself? Because I noticed that it's done by Brainbase. I'm not too familiar with them, but it turns out they're actually got 3 shows going on right now. They're doing Bokura wa Minna Kawaiso and 1 Week Friends, and this show. So I'm wondering if they're stretched thin, or if it looks like pretty good animation.
Depends on the scene. The backgrounds actually look really amazing at times, but the characters and, well, the CGI is actually not that good in comparison with Kawaii.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have to
Thanks.
say the other shows look better than this one.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but
It's decent, but
yeah,
not.
it's mediocre. I mean, yeah, it's not pretty normal, I would say. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next title. I know someone's been bothering me all week. Oh, we gotta talk about this.
Well, Nick.
Wait, do I have a script? Yeah, here it is. Yay!
Does it contain penguins?
Kaizen Robo Daimedalier.
Daimi dollar. It sounds like a U.S. dollar. Yes.
Or Daimler.
Go ahead, tell
Prices?
us about it, Nick.
Well, I think it'd be the most fair to start this thing off in a direct comparison to a series it really reminds me of. There was a show way back in the day called The Line Barrels of Iron. And it's like someone took this project, mixed it with some crazy humor from Excel World, and made it something fit to be showed on the ATX channel. Because this is one of the 18-plus animes out this season, and it is pure absurdity. You know, our main character actually has the same first name as the guy from Line Barrels of Iron, and he turns out that they are looking for a pilot to pilot this robot, but they need to emit something called a high Iro particle, which is kind of a weird play on almost saying hero and at the same time high ero, as in, you know, eroge. And so whenever the character is basically, you know, seeing something explicit, experiencing something explicit, he kicks off these power particles and goes into like a super mode of sorts. And that in turn kind of powers this robot that he's given to basically by this main character. And I'm just going to say there is a lot of fondling in this anime because that, I guess, powers the robot. The opposition is a bunch of anthropomorphic-looking penguins who basically have the silhouette of a person but look like they're wearing a penguin kind of skin suit, except, you know how penguins normally have a small little tail? Well, these guys have a tail mounted in the front where, you know, the crotch would be of most people. And that's what it actually gets compared to, the crotch part. And they say, no, it's our tail, get it right. And these penguins are just all about, like, basically owning the libido of the earth. They want people to produce these particles so they can harvest them for their own empire. Peace attempts failed at first, which was hilarious. And this show is just pure absurdity that is blatantly trying to exploit the 18-plus nature of the ATX channel. They're in the opening itself has topless figures, so much like DXD I think did, or it was in the ending. But an interesting note, just saying, if you watch this thing via fan subbing, there is a group who is kind of troll subbing just a little bit. And they are making highly entertaining comments at random times that have caused multiple people I know to literally pause the episode and roll in laughter. They reference Linux and God, what was the other one? Java. Yes, Java and Linux get an improper call out by this subgroup. So, yeah, and that's this show.
Well, the only comment I can give is that the show is totally worth it. It's high ego. In all ways. I mean, we've got a show where breast fondling is converted to energy. That will be awesome in real life.
Yeah, at one point, like, the main character actually makes a funny comment, like, why can't cars be powered off this stuff? So, it's a comedy, it's not taking itself seriously. You know, feminists would have a field day with the objectification in this show. But if you're into something maturedly funny, then this might be something to check out. It's one of the 2, I think it is, ATX channel specials, so, or not specials, but
Were you arguing about what to talk about next?
Yeah.
He's on mute,
like
so
it.
So we're wondering whether or not we should skip Kindaichi Shonen no Jikenbo R
I
Which
forgot I was muted.
is that like a Detective Conan type thing?
A
Or
little bit,
not?
but actually it has a little bit more of an adult theme, not as childish at as Conan. Um, well, we've got this one guy that's really good at logic things. He gets everything right except the things that aren't built from logic. Math tests, he doesn't get anything right, but the thing that should be impossible, he gets right because it's pure logic. But surprisingly, the show is very decent in a way because the animation, the story, and art style is not, well, let's say, bad, but interesting. As the first case is, at least the first case is through episode 1, I think, and playing in Hong Kong. And it's actually really surprising because one of his friends is captured of a group, and he has to recover her. And well, it's a lot more interesting than Detective Conan. If you like detective shows, this could be really interesting. It kind of includes things you could really watch beforehand and know, well, that could be the solver for this case, and later on he says that, and well, it's a bit more logical than Detective Conan. That's the only comment I want to give about the show.
Well, this I'm just looking up some general information about this Kindaichi Shonen no Jikembo thing. It's based on a manga that's been running for 2 decades. It's got 65 volumes. There's been an anime movie in 1996. There's been a 148 episode anime TV show in 1997. There's been a live action movie in 1997. There's been another anime movie in 99. There's been an OVA series, just 2 episodes, in 2012. So this just seems like the latest adaptation of
Yeah,
this whole franchise.
that's it.
Cool. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I had myself muted. I was talking. Wasn't going through. Let's go ahead and go to Love Live next. Love Live Season 2, right? Or Project 2, I call it.
Yeah, it's cuter. It's worse and cuter. Well, anything else to say? At least they've tried to implement a new story arc, and that's not really surprising in a way. They started off with school not being closed down, and yeah, and now there's a new competition, and they want to enter, and they kind of have to, yeah, play against the really good school idol club they wanted to beat last season. But yeah, I'm not really surprised that the show kind of lost its some yeah the thing they've got in the first season. I kind of lost that in the second. It's like a little bit like this strange anime that includes this syndrome that I don't like in the second season. Well,
Alright. So, basically, if you like the first season, you probably like the second one.
I followed the first season. I will not follow the second one yet. No, I don't know. I don't like the second one right now.
I kind of didn't finish the last season, but I might finish it up just so I can see how this goes. But now I'm kind of iffy with what you said, but I'll
I
still
would
give it a try.
I would still recommend it to the ones that watched the first season to watch the first 2 episodes of second season. It just lost the premise for me.
Alright. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which I think it's been releasing kind of slow. I've only seen a few 2 episodes or so of this.
Well, it released really late.
Yeah, the M3 Sono Kuroki Hagane. Looks like Nick's the only one that's following it.
Oh no. Yes, I know the premise. It's actually kind of weird and hard to describe. But we have this field that exists outside. Basically, the world one day is kind of encumbered by this. With I think it's like a dark steel, as they call it, which has taken up permanent territories and causes anything that it touches, most likely organic materials, to kind of become assimilated by it. And it's a series that uses some kind of I guess Code Geass like mech suits. You got these kind of heavy robots that are tread driven and only kind of pseudo anthropomorphic, but they attempt to use like almost Knights of Sidonia like weaponry that cost like I think it was like $20 or like $2,000 or no, probably $20,000 just to like kind of like make one of these things. And a lot of the metal infected organic material can sometimes wander its way into the habitated colonies, or not colonies, cities, I guess. But and the weapon is used to take out the entity. It's a little confusing to me right now. Being only a few episodes in, I didn't get as much of it. Like I watched everything that's out for it so far, but it released so late that it's very hard to get a concept of where it's going. But they have terminologies for these things that show up, and one of them is like a corpse and a something. And if you hear the song of one of these entities, because apparently it sings, there's a rumor that you will die within 7 days. And during one of the first missions out there, the song is heard on the batch of trainees, and with one early death off, the students are now kind of panicking with how true the statement was in their own lives in the very near future. But there is a special mech that emerges in one of the later episodes that's known as the Death God, I think. And it seems to be piloted a lot differently than the joystick controls of the other ones. And once I get that thing figured out, I could probably explain the series a lot better. But a lot of weird terminology, a lot of weird stuff going on. Mech suits.
Nice. Mech suits.
Not super pretty ones too. These things are, it's well animated, but like I said, they're very bulky and almost like kind of Code Geass style. But they are not as agile either. They're not prided upon quick motions. They are very tank-like.
Alright. Well, I actually might give it a chance later on. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, the staff looks kind of interesting. It's written by Mario Okada, of all people, and the director is Junichi Sato, who's done lots of like girly slice of life moe-y things, like Tama Yurida and Aria. Nothing that looks like a mecha anime. So,
Right.
so yeah, I don't know, like the combo of Junichi Sato and Mario Okada like equals mecha anime. I'll have to take a look at it. The animation is by Satellite, which is a studio who sometimes does interesting stuff when they're not doing like Macross or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I don't know if it's necessarily going to be the most interesting thing out there right now. Like I said, it's still very early off, and the mech tie-ins are kind of side and side. The mechs are actually kind of a bit backgrounded as for right now. It's really busy fleshing out its school life and a lot of the point of views of the students going through this society and just kind of like the mechanics behind how these things work. There's just a lot of information being thrown out that's a little difficult to pick up on and follow. So just a tad. There's not a big curve to it, but I'm just saying it's still releasing a lot of info to kind of flesh out the series. So
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that one.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next title. We got Majin Bone, which is a kind of strange show.
kinda.
Kinda.
It's a very
That's
strange
awesome.
show.
It's really awesome.
Yeah, even
Is
though
it
it's
kids
strange,
show?
Huh?
even though it's strange, I find myself interested in it and actually watch it. So it's been pretty fun.
Yeah, it has a very strange allure to it.
It's a little bit of old school mixed with a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh style monster Transformers also. I don't know. Its premises at least were very interesting and addicting.
Yeah, and the comedy in it's pretty funny. I mean, that's what got me into it. After watching the first episode, the comedy they had it just kind of pulled me in. It wasn't really the whole battles or the whole transformation suits or whatever. It was just the little comedy that they had between that girl and him. Even the mother was funny with some of the stuff they said. Nick, you want to tell us a little bit about it, or?
All I know is it's based off some kind of a digital card game released by Bandai, and I have no idea what its mechanics are, or if it's anything like this TV show. Unlike a lot of the other card games that you can instantly tell what the game resembles or how the game's played, Majin Bone kind of seems like it's doing its own thing. I mean, I just can't see any resemblance of gameplay out of it. Every character within it currently seems to only have one card that turns into like a CG suit in a battle for kind of with an alien force for territory or property. I'm not 100% sure. But it's animated very oddly. It almost looks like pure CG with like pure cell shade, and not even like cell shading. The color scheming is very basic. And the character interactions are definitely awkward. I like the comedy present at times, but the characters are so not even trope driven. I don't even know what to call it.
They're diverse.
They are very diverse, but I don't know exactly why I'm watching this show. I'd only consider it like very, very average at this time, but it does have its own sense of pulling you into the story either through the pure character interactions or I really don't know what else is. I don't think anyone's going to be watching this thing necessarily for the combat, so. Very odd characters are present, very weird storyline, and I really don't see how a digital card game is played behind the premise of this show, personally. I think maybe that's the reason I'm watching it. How is this a game being played? I don't know.
Yeah, but I would say give it a try, and if you get into it first episode, then you'd probably like it. But I mean, I can't really recommend it. Say you watch the whole thing, but if you just give the first episode a try, you'll either like it or not, type of thing.
Well, the only thing I have to add is that the art style is very simple. and it really looks like a 10-year-old anime with CGI elements. It's kind of strange in a way, and unique. Not bad.
I think
Not
because
necessarily either.
I think because of how simple the animation is, it's kind of easier to go with the story. You know what I mean?
From what I'm hearing, everyone's pretty much watching it because of Antonio.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title here, which let's see here. Meikaku City Actors, which is done by Shaft, right? That's what everyone was telling me. It's kind of funny when I first heard about this because people were like, "Have you seen that Miku lookalike type show?"
Yeah, she's definitely being called a Miku lookalike. I don't even actually. I'm not even able to recall her name right now. Ellie or something like that.
And
N. Okay, it was with an E. So I might take this one off. Meikaku City Actors opens up with the interactions between a shut-in character and a highly advanced AI that was basically given to him from somewhere. I don't think he even quite knows where. The AI exhibits a vast hacking prowess and can pretty much take over any system she's introduced to, and also bears a strong resemblance to Hasune Miku. It was very unclear the direction of this thing with just watching the first episode, as our shut-in character actually has to venture outside and gets caught up in like a department store heist. But it quickly unravels itself with the next few episodes, turning out to be a series based around the only thing that I can also call again is a Code Geass-like eye-based ability that most of the characters in the image you see there in the splash basically possess. The ability is unique to each and every one of them, and they have formed a kind of like a city sector just to, I guess when you have an odd ability, your first goal is to find peers that share your odd ability and, just, I don't know, make a club about it, X-Men style. But, so the show is very much done by Shaft, and you do have a lot of Shaft tropes in it. Fairly highly artistic backgrounds at times and awkward head tilting. But it definitely seems to be an interesting show based around the premise of these characters who possess a unique ability based around making eye contact.
Here's another picture being shared. One thing I do want to mention real quick. I know a lot of people were very interested in this show because of where it comes from. I guess it comes from a manga called Kaguro Day or the Kaguro Project, and they even mentioned that in the credits. So there's a manga out there. There's quite a few chapters out there.
Yeah, that's actually another thing, though. This show definitely seemed to have a really warm welcome reception, and I was sure that it had to exist as another media, basically, just because it seemed like a lot more people were looking forward to it than it had information out. Like, with only such few episodes being out, it seems a lot of people were throwing around knowledge, asking questions such as, like, who's your favorite character, before a lot of the characters really had a chance to debut. So it definitely does seem to be a very big project that a lot of people actually I noticed hype for it after the first episode came out. So it was a very interesting thing to kind of see.
All right. So does anyone else have anything to say about the show? I know someone was or mentioned that. What was it, you, Sean, that you didn't find it
Yeah,
too interesting?
I couldn't do it. You know, I tried to watch it for just 2 minutes and I couldn't stand it because it looks so much like Monogatari. It has all the same visual language that, you know, it just makes me want to watch Monogatari instead.
Understandable, but you know, it's a project that I'm going to find interest in. I definitely want to see the story it's folding out and what these characters are going to go through. I do have interest in their ailments / abilities.
Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the next title. If I can find my screen. Mushishi Zokusho,
Mm-hmm.
which is the second season. Go ahead, have you started, Sean? It's been pretty long.
Finally. When did the first one start? I'm just gonna take a wild guess and say 2006. Um, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that another series of this is actually happening. Because the first one felt like such a prestige project to me. You know, it's ex- it struck me as being really expensive. It looked like an expensive production, but it wasn't flashy. It was expensive in very subtle ways. A lot of the animation is very subtle. You know, it's all about characters smoothly moving from one pose to another, or you get to see the mushi sort of fluttering about in the air. And that's always animated on the ones, which is to say 24 drawings per second, which is extremely unusual in anime, but it's part of the visual language of mushishi. The sound design is really fantastic. The voice acting is always soft, and the stories have a lot of mono no aware, as they call it. It has a lot of ah-ness. So the whole production just lulls you into a trance, just like this, you know, deep and you're just in such a trance that by the time the end credits start rolling, you're just like, yeah, I'm just gonna watch all these end credits. I hope they never end. Because and it's fine to watch end credits too, because every ending credit scroller actually has an original piece of music that's custom made for the episode. So it's a very unusual production in many ways, and I always thought of it as like a prestige piece and not something that has like a business plan. But, you know, what do I know about the anime industry? So I'm so glad that they made more Mushishi, even if it's just for one season, you know, just 12 or 13 or whatever episodes. You know, I'm still thanking the gods every day. I've only seen 2 episodes of this so far because to me it's already a known entity, right? It's like not as exciting as everything else because, you know, everything else is shrouded in mystery and I want to find out if it's any good or not. I just know that Mushishi is really good. And so right before the hangout I watched a couple episodes and yeah, it's as good as it's ever been. I highly recommend it. It's like Natsume Yuujincho, but where Natsume Yuujincho is a shoujo show, Mushishi is a seinen show, and the production value is just like through the roof. Yeah, anybody else?
So I have a question. Would you need to have watched any of the other series?
Nope. No, it's a very episodic show, so you can just dive right into the second series. It doesn't really matter. Anybody else want to talk about Mushishi?
Let's see here. What about you, Albert?
Sure. I happened to just pick this up because of all the recommendations floating around, and I have actually not watched the first season. So I just went to Crunchyroll, you know, streamed the first episode, and was really surprised at how good it was. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's basically an anthology series. So it's very episodic. Things happen, but you kind of follow the main character Ginkgo as he interacts with others that have their interactions with the mushi, the uh, the spirits, I guess. Anyway, so I found it to be very relaxing. It is not. It's heavily character driven. Character interactions matter a lot, and he's kind of, at least the episodes I watched, he's kind of the observer, and through him you get a little bit more information about the mushi, but it's all about how people behave, interact, are affected by the mushi. So it's a very different show. Sean's right, the animation is outstanding. I was surprised that the first episode, there are scenes in the forest where light plays a major part, and it's beautifully animated. I mean, the lighting effects were just phenomenal. So based on that alone, I'd probably continue to watch it. I just haven't had time to watch I watched episode 1 and 2, and I haven't watched the other episodes yet. But I'm planning on it.
So, I haven't started the second season. I do plan to pick it up, but I kind of remember from watching the first season, like Mushishi was one of those types of shows that always seemed like the episodes were longer than everything else I've watched. You know, sometimes you have those feelings where the episodes seem like they're really short. This one just seems like it went on. I kind of like that because it seems like you're getting more, but of course it's still the same time as any other show. It looks like no one else has seen this, right? Looks like we got Sean again with the next title here. Ping Pong.
Mm-hmm. Give me a second. Alright. Ping Pong is the latest from Masaki Yuasa, a well-known director of alternative anime. But as alternative as this one looks, it's actually true to the original manga in terms of character and visual design. And even though I usually stay away from sports anime, this TV show is pretty exciting in practice. All the players have backstories and motivations, and they bring their own brand of fury to each match. Most of the episodes so far have been storyboarded by the director himself, and this TV show depends on the strength of its creative and enthusiastic storyboarding in the same way that Kill la Kill did. Which is a good thing because this series appears to be running on a very tight schedule. Certain cuts weren't completed in time for some episodes, as revealed by an animator working on the project. The true opening animation wasn't unveiled until episode 3, and then it was revised further for episode 4. I suppose we won't know until episode 5 if this is the final version or not. But despite the rushed production, the hype and fury of the matches are totally infectious. I highly recommend watching the first episode from start to finish before making a judgment. And that's my spiel.
Looks like Tripley's the only other person that's watching this.
Yeah, and I'm Mr. Sports Anime, I think, and Mr. Anime in general, as I watched most of the things. But story-wise and artistically wise, this anime is the uniquest of this season, and it's kind of complicated because, well, as a sports anime, we know most of the time there's not a lot of story, but more matches going on, and this art is completely new to me, I think, and it just covers this so good. and it's so well animated in the style. I think this is a sports anime of the season, or art-wise the most unique anime in the season. And yeah, if you really like watching anime, even if you don't watch sports anime in general, this anime is still something for everyone. And I don't think that the animation and art is something, or the story that is just unique, not bad. It's really good, very good. If you don't watch it yet, give it a try. First episode, or just first two. That's it. You don't have to watch everything, but the first two episodes, you know if you like it or not.
All right.
I'm a pretty big fan of this director, obviously. And I really hope you find success with Ping Pong, because the anime that he's made prior to this has been like very obtuse and inaccessible in a sense. Like they've gotten really poor sales. Who's playing music? Is it me?
Yeah.
I don't hear music.
I don't hear it at all.
Oh. Okay.
It's also one of the few anime that includes Chinese language, I think. I haven't heard a foreign language except English for a long time in Japanese animation. That's kind of strange for me, in Chinese in Japanese animation.
Yeah, I think the show is just so cool for doing that. That it has a Chinese character from China. You know, he has whole scenes just for himself, and he speaks Chinese. How many foreign characters do you know in anime that actually like fluently speak their supposed native tongue? This like never happens outside of maybe feature animation. This never happens, but it's happening in Ping Pong.
Yeah.
That's just that's just exemplary of how cool this show is.
All right. Thank you guys for that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which I guess we didn't talk about. Selector Infected.
We cross.
However you're gonna pronounce that, you're pronouncing it wrong.
We cross.
Yeah, that.
It pretty much starts with the we, and then the X starts the cross, but then the OSS is just there to kind of help you out to finish the cross and not make it just look like Wix.
Well, Nick, you being the card fellow, you want to?
Yeah, so Selector Infected Cross is basically behind a card game over there in Japan, much like it's kind of been done before with other titles. But essentially what happens in this one, there was a series that it really reminded me of that I didn't end up watching a few ago. You guys might recall it, but I think it was more of a digital thing where basically characters would meet this animated card that was in like one of the first decks that they basically ended up getting. And I don't exactly know how this game is played because I haven't played it and I probably won't, but that character was a very important piece of the deck that would kind of lead it as a leader. And this anime is basically hinges around the battling between the characters who encounter other players who also have animated live leader cards in their deck. So what ends up happening in this one is as these people like do these like Yu-Gi-Oh-esque Shadow Realm duels, the victor is a step closer to getting a wish that they may have granted, while the loser encounters like a 3-strike you're out rule. And our main character here doesn't necessarily have anything she wishes for, which actually that's an interesting aspect of the show. It seems that only women or girls necessarily playing the game have come across the animated cards. Although both genders can play the game, it centers around only women being able to have their wishes granted by these cards somehow. So we're very early into the series, and I'm not exactly sure of all the mechanics, but it seemed like a really decent show until I met some of the antagonists kind of in the more recent episodes. They had a really obscure personalities that didn't seem like any person you'd just come across in like the real world. They were pretty driven by this card game, almost absurdly so. And yeah, that's Selector infected with Cross. There is a little bit of a foreshadowing of the a pillar, a Tetris-like pillar that's being built upon its completion that would kind of like decimate the city, as if you put the final piece in the Tetris tower, the whole row would kind of disappear. So we are having a little bit of a foreshadowing about something that's going to happen due to either this card game being completed, played, or I'm not completely sure at this time, but there is something pretty omniscient in the background of it.
Yeah, I get some very eerie feelings about this show. I mean, that's been keeping me into it. I mean, it feels like something's going to happen, and I kind of want to see what's going to happen.
I only saw the first 2/3 of the first episode. But what struck me is how like eerie and ominous and extremely detailed the backgrounds were. Like they were like movie quality backgrounds, but you know that there were just all these like shadowy, ominous clouds. Even though the subject matter is all like smiles and sunshine, but you know there's just something weird about the art design there.
The series that I was trying to think of, sorry not to cut you off, was the Fantasia doll, or Fantastica doll, or whatever it was from a few seasons ago. It kind of seemed like it was starting up like that somewhat. But yeah, there's definitely a huge presence of the eeriness that one did not have.
I mean, does that continue, or does that like build up to anything? Or is that just one of the weird, unexplained quirks of this production?
I mean,
it's not explained yet.
There's some things that happen every once in a while, like she'll be walking, or something will happen, all of a sudden she has that vision of that pillar through the whole city again. So it's like, what's going on? And then you start learning more of her background, and her background is seeming kind of creepy. I mean, I was kind of like, what? When they start explaining, they don't really explain it. You just get like flashes of some stuff, like people say something about her, and then she'll have this flashback of something that happened back in the past. Like it's kind of freaky. So I'm definitely going to keep on watching this to see what happens, because I feel something big's going to go. Did you drop it, Tripoli?
Actually, I didn't drop it. I'm just not interested in it. It's the same as dropping it, but not as smooth.
Alright. Well, we don't have too much time, but I think we can get through what we have left real quick. The only other title we have really is Soul Eater, which looks like Nick and Tripoli were watching.
Oh, yes.
Or Soul Eater not, sorry. Not.
It's not Soul Eater.
That's
Actually,
a great name.
It is.
It's more or less a spin-off, but it references a lot of the characters out of the original series that I have not seen. But I gave it a shot, and since I don't really know the original Soul Eater, I don't really know how it differentiates itself in the long run. About the only thing I could begin to fathom is Soul Eater was more about action-y combat, and while action and combat is present in this series, it's centered around a school for for newbies, people who have just awakened into talent or are to begin training in order to achieve the level of combat that was present, I guess, in like the original Soul Eater. It's essentially a training school, and the unique tidbit about this one is we do have a main character who changes into a weapon, but she can't quite control her own ability to do so yet. So she's very much working on that. But mostly, this school is all about pairing. You find a partner and you kind of pair with them, and you'll eventually work on your teamwork to hopefully achieve great results. This series pretty much establishes that the main character weapon here is going to be shared amongst two different characters, as they cannot quite adequately figure out how to... They were both viable partners from the get-go, and they couldn't really deal with breaking up the trio. So they're dealing with being a trio pair that no one else in this school really has to kind of mess with. So they even went pretty far into explaining where the NOT title comes from, and I couldn't quite remember the acronym, but basically it means you're a noob. And they also have EAT class students, which are elitist. I think the E literally stands for elite. But it's a pretty interesting kind of spin-off that, again, I have not watched the original Soul Eater. I thought I'd watch this one, and it seemed entertaining enough, so I was going to follow it.
Alright.
The first series was like a shonen action, like Naruto type thing.
Yeah.
At least that's what a friend of mine described to me. He saw the whole thing, and he showed me like all the cool fighty bits from it.
Right.
Which there were, because it's from Studio Bones, and they're like the premier studio for like flashy shonen-y fight scenes. But Soul Eater is not that, right? It's what is it? Is it like a comedy?
It's a little bit of a comedy, but
Doing
it has
good things sort of thing.
I wouldn't say it centers around comedy. It's essentially a spin-off that isn't as focused on action and pulls into a lot more school life side of things. So, while action is present...
Is it like lighthearted, or is it drama?
It's a little more lighthearted than you would get out of a shonen show. Definitely more of the lighthearted nature. I wouldn't exactly say it's dramatic, but like the character drama is not necessarily relationship drama, but it's more, I guess, experiential drama.
Or is it like rivalries or something? Or
yeah, I mean, like it's very early school life, so everything that you would expect to be present in a school where you have a freshman class based around combat. I mean, without making combat the main point of the show here, it's essentially just a school life version of Soul Eater, a little less actiony,
but
with different characters.
It is still very nicely animated, I must say. It's got really nice animations in place. And it is, it's really more of a comedy, but it still has such action scenes in it that look very, very nice. Actually, I prefer this show over the original Soul Eater.
I actually do think I'm going to use a reference that I think I read on Google earlier. Someone said it's like Soul Eater K-onified, and that's absolutely kind of what this is. You've got a lot of the elements, without being a moe basic show, replace the moe with, action, and that's kind of what Soul Eater ended up kind of warming up into. So the bits of drama and character relationships that you would see present in stuff like K-On! Is a little more present in this series. So as funny as K-On! is almost the level of comedy in this show.
All right. So that's it for the main series. We do have a few shorts that we can quickly try to cover. We'll probably just go through 3 of them. I don't want to go through all of them for the time sake, but one popular one is the mangaka-san,
Oh,
or
yes.
Assistant Santo.
That's probably the most popular short of the season.
It's hilarious. Watch it.
Yes, all I can say is they've done a fantastic job with this series. Was it Zebek or Xerxes or something that did this?
Panzu lovers. That's a show. Anything else is not important.
Oh, okay, fine. The animation studio doesn't matter. You won't glean any information about how good the show is from that. I understand.
Yeah.
But Xerxes. I mean, it is based off the manga, which was the manga 4 Coma? I can never quite remember. I think
No,
it was.
It wasn't.
No? Okay. Yeah, I never quite remember. These little shorter mangas are always kind of get me. But it seems to be following the opening of the manga pretty spot on. I didn't stick too long with the manga to tell if it's covering the story pretty... or is anyone an avid reader of the manga, actually?
Yep. I am. And it's actually mostly frame by frame inserted into the animation. And it's not very nicely done. If I compare the scene where the manager of the mangaka says, well, she has so flat, no one can compare with that. It's really, really well implemented.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things about the show is the sheer expressions that the characters present. I think they've done the eyes to facial expressions pretty perfectly. The colors are vivid, and the comedy centers around our mangaka, who has a pretty pervy take on his manga. He likes to do panty shots and other unrealistic, I guess, school experiences that are a little more erotic in nature. And he's constantly kind of having his fantasies about his manga and the scenarios that you would come to kind of expect from an otaku. And his rather down-to-earth assistants who are trying to steer him away from that path and just get him to make some more normal series. But his personality matches pretty much the manga that he creates, and it is so entertaining to see this guy.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah, so it is a pretty perverted show, I would say, but one thing that got me as I was watching this, I had to turn around and do something for a bit. And as soon as I heard the voice without seeing the picture, I was like, oh my god, that's Kirito. That's what our online. Saying some really perverted stuff. So it's kind of funny to hear him, but it's really interesting how he does all those vocal noises for the comedic effect.
Actually, I'm hating the voice acting of the show.
Really?
It just doesn't fit for me as a reader of the manga. But the animation and the story just do the weight, just being perfect. I mean, when it comes to how small my breasts are, I won't introduce to anyone. That's so interesting.
One thing I guess we should mention real quick about this is that even though it's called a short, I believe it's around 11 minutes long.
Yeah, like 12 minutes.
So it's like more of a half an episode rather than a short.
I think.
Yeah, however, each episode has like 3 or 4 shorts, so it's like shorts within shorts.
Yeah. Actually, I think they will cover the wall manga. Actually, they've got one manga out, and they're doing another manga right now. It's called Mangaka-san to Assistant-san 2.
Nice.
I wonder what that one's going to be about.
How
Sounds so
original.
different.
Well, we know already.
All right. Well,
I know.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and move on to the next short we have here. Just what is it? Inugami-san to Nekoyama-san. Has anyone been watching this one?
Yep. It's a perfect shot.
Has anybody been watching this?
Yeah.
one?
So this is like 4 minutes long, right? Or 3 minutes
Yep.
long, with the no
Of course
opening, just the ending. And of course, you got your main characters, Inugami and Neko. What do you call that? Nekoyama.
Mhm.
And of course, because of their names, their characters are pretty much very similar to their names. Inugami, which you have the dog symbol, so she's very much like a dog. Nekoyama, very much like a cat, because of the Neko. And it's funny because they each like the opposite type of animal. Inugami likes cats, Nekoyama likes dogs. And as you go on, you're introduced to other characters. I think there's like some mouse girl, like her name was
Yeah, like, I don't know, Nezumi or something like that.
Nezumi something, yeah. And then you got another cow girl. Her name had the cow symbol in it, or of course you can see. I bet you can guess what aspect they added to her, right? And it's actually kind of I thought was kind of interesting because I didn't notice it at first, but if you were to look at their friend, which they call her Aki,
Mhm.
in this screenshot here I'm sharing, you can actually see a leaf in her mouth because Aki's fall. And I thought that was kind of interesting how they did that. It's kind of funny.
Oh, wow, I didn't catch that.
Oh, the hell.
Yeah, she's kind of like the straight man in a lot of the jokes that happen between the Inugami and the Nekoyama.
Yeah.
Although it's mostly Inugami who's stirring these jokes along. She's much like a dog, a very affectionate person, and she stirs a lot of the story on forward. Thus, she's usually kind of the star of attention here. I guess as most dogs would usually be in a scenario with a direct comparison between cats and dogs. But I really do like this series for like the personification of a lot of the animalistic traits that are being brought out of the characters. There is one thing that I'm not sure if it's quite my style, and that's, you guys might hate me for this, but Inugami kind of has this thing where she always has a ponytail, and whenever she's happy, that ponytail will just wag like a dog tail for like no reason. And I just wish they had a little better mechanic for that, but it's not like trouncing my experience of the show. It's still good. I'm just like, ah. But we have a very outgoing Inugami who really stirs on a lot of the affectionate side of the story, so.
What's that picture for, Tripley?
Oh, well, the picture is for Tokyo ESP, but that's next season. I just like this panda.
He's already showing off the anime that's not out yet. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Inugami, it is actually kind of perverted too, as well.
Yep.
They have some
That's-
perversion scenes, so unless
I
you're
like
into
this.
that, you might want to. If you don't
What
like
are you talking about?
perversion, you might want to stay
It's
away.
not perverted at all. For animals, the stuff's more normal than you think.
All right. Well, let's go to our last short and our last topic for today. If I can find it.
No.
Shoujo Tensen or Tyson.
Ty-
Sorry, Tyson. I corrected myself. I got it. This is another short, 4 minutes long.
Well, it certainly feels like 8 minutes in a bad way.
I'm actually enjoying. I like the designs, the character designs. I actually really like how they're drawn. It's super fun.
Yeah, but they're not drawn very good.
They're drawn good enough for me.
I actually kind of have to agree a little bit with Tank here. I personally like some of the character designs. The story is a little out there. It takes a little bit to acquire, and I'm not quite sure where it's going and what it's trying to do. But it's a fairly interesting short. I mean, what would you say? She is the magic girl, the Maho Shoujo, who has a transformation and was giving it to it by like a mascot character of sorts. But she's kind of met with this. She comes across to the general public as one of those cosplayers who venture to the public, unaware that she is actually a magical girl, and she does encounter a little bit of societal backlash from time to time. She's in the middle of chasing down the foe that her mascot character is urging her on to get, and she is stopped by a policeman who will not let her jaywalk across the stoplight sign. And the mascot character is just, come on, they're getting away. And she's, just no one else can actually see the mascot character too, which is a point that I'd probably want to throw out there, so people aren't seeing this magical thing that she's talking to. So it's very much set up to pretty much showcase how to be a magical girl and try to conceal it at the same time, while just basically drawing a lot of public attention. So.
So, from what I've noticed, it seems like they're kind of set in little arcs. Because like I think the first 3 episodes targeted that one girl, and now the 4th episode you're introduced to another girl. So I'm thinking, because like at the opening it showed a bunch of different types of magical girls. So I'm wondering if like each little arc's going to target or focus on particular characters.
Yeah, wasn't the show about many different kind of cities with different magical girls? I think that was the synopsis.
Right, yeah, it's a little difficult to tell right now since we're so early off, but we'll have a much more solid idea of what it's going to do when it finishes, and we talk about it in a few months, or like a month or two, or whatever.
Alright. Well, let's go ahead and that'll be it today. Thank you for watching. The box is a little bad. OreAni with us. This was part 2. I don't know if you guys want to mention anything before we leave. Nothing? Alright. Well,
any title that we have not mentioned thus far is just to assume to be too unpopular to matter.
Fairy Tale, for example.
yes, Fairy Tale.
What's that title? I've never heard of that. But yeah, hopefully we'll be back to the end review, and I don't know, we might do something in between just for fun. But I'll get with you guys. If you have any ideas for our videos or anything you guys want us to talk about just for fun, go ahead, comment, let us know. Join us on Anime Talk. That's our community on Google Plus, where we share everything and anything about the titles that are being released right now. So thank you guys for watching, and that'll be it.